Hey guys, in this video I'll be comparing the most recent or best versions of Samson Dauda, Hadi Choopan, Derek Lunsford, and Nick Walker in a 2024 Olympia preview of sorts. This is a video that I was really looking forward to making, and I think it turned out really well. Please let me know if you enjoy these more graphical, visually elaborate videos, or if the standard comparisons are more of your thing. Anyways, I thought this would be a fun comparison to make, considering that these are the final versions we're going to see of the potential top 4 until the Olympia in November. While I've compared all of these guys individually, I haven't done a full-scale top 4 comparison, and to judge this video, I'll be using a points system. For each pose, the first place finisher gets 1 point, second place gets 2, third gets 3, and fourth gets 4. The person with the least amount of points in the end wins the comparison, which I'm going to tally up at the end. With that all being said, let's get into this video. Alright, starting off this comparison, we have the front double, a pose which is very strong for all 4 competitors. Firstly, let's take a look at each competitor's best characteristic, starting with Samson, who has the tallest, widest structure and extremely clean aesthetic lines. Hadi is the most balanced, having dense muscle and razor-sharp condition. Derek definitely stands out for having the best X-frame and V-taper, along with a deep vacuum. Lastly, Nick has the peakiest biceps and largest arms, and an incredible amount of freak factor. Looking at all 4, it is clear to me who would be the frontrunners in this pose. My eyes are drawn to the middle, with Hadi and Derek presenting the 2 best poses in my opinion. Hadi has the thickest quads relative to his structure, along with a similarly impressive V-taper to Derek, while having far better conditioning upstairs. Derek handily beats Samson and Nick in the V-taper, has better lat flare than Hadi, massive yet unseparated arms, and sliced quads. Samson and Nick, while good in their own right, have too many flaws compared to Hadi and Derek. Nick's waist is too wide, his quads are the least swept, while Samson's arms are arguably the worst due to lacking separation and poor genetic insertions, and weaker total separation. Between Derek and Hadi, I'd have Derek pulling ahead ever so slightly, as he's undeniably the best in that X-frame silhouette across almost any division in this pose. While Hadi may have more outer quad sweep and more conditioned arms, Derek is similarly sized downstairs and has larger, fuller arms and a far better torso. I'd have Derek winning here, with Hadi in a close second, Nick in third, and Samson in fourth. The front lat spread is a pose where we can immediately relegate Nick to 4th place in, since there's no way he would win this pose against any of the structurally superior competitors. His waist is really the nail in the coffin, as he has a rather impressive upper body development, however his bloated midsection and weaker quads hold him back. Now, Samson, Hadi, and Derek all look good in this pose, however there are levels to this. There is clearly one competitor that has it all in this pose, with mass, condition, and shape, and that would be Hadi. He really is on another level compared to these two, since Samson, while structurally superior, isn't as ripped or detailed, doesn't have that lat coverage, and isn't as filled out as Hadi or Derek. Speaking of Derek, while he may have tons of size and mass, certain areas look underwhelming, like his outer quads and chest. He's great in the arms, delts, and midsection, however he's nowhere near the others in lat exposure. Between Samson and Derek, I'd probably give Samson an upper hand, since he's wider across the clavicles, has more lat exposure, possesses fuller quads, and more chest fullness. He's also just as aesthetic, maybe lacking a bit in condition, however much better in the areas he wins against Derek. So I'd have this one ending with a win for Hadi due to those incredible lats, quads, condition, and width on that frame. Samson in second because of that structure, Derek in third because he's clearly better than Nick, and Nick in fourth because he's not the best in this pose. The side chest is a much more competitive shot compared to the last two, since all 4 look phenomenal and bring unique characteristics to the table. Samson's the biggest one, presenting the most mass in that side leg and the best chest thickness. Hadi is the most aesthetically pleasing, possessing incredible sharpness and detail in the midsection, along with very balanced proportions. Derek has tons of size and density and a solid balance of size and condition, and lastly, Nick is the freakiest, having a grainy type of condition, tons of mass, and great detail as well. Personally, the 2 that stand out the most are Hadi and Nick, since both present balanced physiques when it comes to the upper and lower bodies, while scoring highly in the condition, muscular development, and presentation departments. The reason why Samson and Derek aren't any higher than 3rd or 4th is because they have too many problems. Both lack that deep separation in the upper body, with this being apparent in their arms and far pecs. Specifically to Derek, he lacks that thickness in the chest, with his arm and delt overshadowing the most important part of the pose, being the chest. While Samson may be massive, his lack of intricate detail compared to Hadi or even Nick holds him back. However, I think he's good enough to beat Derek, who falls into fourth. Now, between Nick and Hadi, it is very close. However, there are some defining characteristics that separate the two. Namely, and most importantly, the midsection's an area where Hadi excels and exposes Nick in. He keeps everything tight, controlled, and separated, while possessing similar thickness in the chest, delt, and arm as Nick. While Nick isn't the most pleasing in the waist, he does have a great dry side leg, one that is larger than Hadi's. However, Hadi is also more detailed out of anyone, and I'd give him the lower body advantage for that reason. I think that Hadi just has the most pleasing lines, clearly enough size, and by far the best conditioning, leading to another win. I'd have Nick in second, with Samson in third, and Derek in fourth, rounding out the side chest. The rear double is a pose where there is a noticeable gap in the caliber of competition, specifically in the backs. While these are probably the best 4 backs in the world as of right now, Derek smokes all 3 of the others in this area. He has the driest, most defined back with phenomenal separation and near maxed out development. Even his delts are in contention for being the best in the bunch, having the most striations and equal size to Hadi and Nick. The only person who comes close to the density of Derek is Hadi. However, he isn't as sharp as he was from the front, and not nearly as conditioned as Derek. Nick comes close to the width of the lats and in the traps. However, he surprisingly has the shallowest looking back, especially in that lower back and in the traps. Samson has brought up his back a lot, being comparable to both Hadi and Nick in the thickness and width. However, he is the least detailed and doesn't have the most impressive set of arms or delts. Looking at the lower body, I'd be confident in saying that Nick is pulling ahead by a large margin, possessing Dorian-esque glute graininess, the most insane hamstring cords, and the most defined calves. Derek does have the most deeply and noticeably separated glutes, decent enough hamstrings, and solid calves as well, which would be enough to complete this total package and secure the win. Hadi is uncharacteristically soft downstairs, not having the most favorable separation, but he does have good size. Samson is the weakest, not for lacking any muscle, but for having the worst conditioning, obviously. Because of this, I would have Samson in fourth, also due to his underwhelming arms and back relative to that massive frame. Next, it is rather close between Nick and Hadi, mainly because Nick wins the limbs while Hadi takes the back itself. I'm leaning towards Hadi since he's really good and complete upstairs, while not being as soft as a guy like Samson in the legs. He convincingly beats Nick in the back, doesn't lose too badly in the arms, and has enough size and somewhat decent leg condition to squeeze by. This one ends up with Derek in first, Hadi in second, with Nick in a close third, and Samson in fourth. Here's the rear lat spread pose, which plays out in a relatively identical manner to the last one. To avoid being redundant, I'll quickly place them as the reasons and justification, all that, are basically the same as the last one for the most part. Samson would be placed in fourth right off the bat, as he isn't significantly wider than any of these guys, while being considerably taller. He also has a watery lower body and zero glute feathering, leading to the big man being relatively lackluster. Nick, while having the best set of legs, ends up in third, mainly due to a shallow set of traps and lower back. He is good in the lat width, however, he doesn't have the 3D thickness of Hadi, nor the dry density of Derek. Next, in second, I'd have the original top 2 from the last pose flipping places, leading to Derek finishing in this place. While he is more shredded in the lower body and has great width in the lats, Hadi has more pronounced development and pop to the traps, more width in the lats, and a better lower inserted lat set, and extreme thickness. You could argue that Derek is detailed and just as muscular, however, the thickness and pop of Hadi is an undeniable advantage in my book. I'd have him in first, with Derek in second, Nick in third, and Samson in fourth. Going back to the side tricep is one of those poses where there is a divide between mass and aesthetics. The 2 most aesthetic guys in this shot would be Samson and Hadi, who are streamlined and possess clean lines. Samson almost reminds me of an old-school golden era physique, with that massive chest, huge tricep, tight and defined midsection, and a detailed side leg. I really like the way that he executes the shot, accentuating that padded chest and large arm, with everything flowing extremely well. Hadi looks very modern, almost like a supercar for that matter, looking very streamlined and aerodynamic. His midsection is so small and sharp, and his physique, while not the biggest, is peeled to the bone. Derek and Nick fall under the category of pure mass, as neither are the most aesthetic, but present so much density on their smaller frames. Derek is probably the worst in the midsection, however, he has a huge arm and delt and a relatively good chest, and a thick and detailed side leg. Nick is great as well, possessing the best tricep, a solid side leg, and a good delt and chest. His midsection, while not the smallest, is nicely posed and somewhat aesthetic even, which helps his case. After looking at the four, I'm leaning towards placing Derek in fourth. His midsection and overall posing is the worst, and his conditioning is not uniform, being murky in the upper body. Then again, his mass is superb, and there is a case for him placing higher. I'd have Nick in third, as although he has the best tricep, I can't help but notice how big his midsection is the more you look. Apart from that, he looks great, however, the other two have far better midsections and overall packages. In second, I'd go with Hadi, which might be controversial, but let me explain. While he is great in the midsection and has amazing flow, Samson is as well, while having a better tricep and a thicker chest. Although Samson, might not be the most conditioned, he showcases enough separation in areas like the arm, side leg, and midsection, and has the best combination of size, fullness, and shape. Then again, this pose is one of those shots where all four guys look great in their own way, leading to this being one of the more subjective and debatable poses. Moving back to the front, the Aban Thigh might just be the most subjective pose yet, even more subjective than the side tricep. That's because the two in the middle, who clearly are the two front runners, are equally as good yet maybe better or worse depending on the judge. If you consider vacuums fine in the Aban Thigh, which I do as it showcases a competitor's control over the midsection, then you'd go with Derek since he has the best V-taper and amazing quads. This results in the best X frame, which is the focal point of a pose like this. If you think that the abs and a detailed midsection are a must, then Hadi takes this one all day. His abs are second to none, and his surrounding midsection muscularity is the best in the game. His quads are also dry and cut and have similar shape to Derek's. Samson and Nick are in the bottom half of this callout, as neither are incredibly good. Samson is the only one with feathered quads and has a great frame, however his lats aren't the widest and his abs are split in the middle, resulting in a rather unpleasing ab layout. That being said, his physique is easily enough to defeat Nick, who is so wide in the waist, looking like a literal fridge. His disproportional quads are another knock against him, leading to a rather disappointing fourth place. Like I said earlier, the Aban Thigh is highly subjective, however I would go with Hadi. While there is something really imposing and awe-inspiring about that deep vacuum of Derek's, I just can't help but be impressed with the immense greebling and intricate detail of Hadi's midsection. I'd go with Hadi here, however Derek could take this one as well. The final pose, the most muscular, has two immediate challengers to the first place spot, those two being Hadi and Nick. Samson and Derek, while dense and thick, are lacking in the chest, arm, and delt separation, and aren't considerably bigger than the other two. Derek is especially soft in the delts and chest, however his quads and midsection are good and his silhouette is actually very impressive. Still, I'd probably have him behind Samson, with them placing third and fourth respectively. Now, between Nick and Hadi, both are complete opposites of each other. Nick is super massive in the arms and delts, has a thicker chest, freaky vascularity downstairs, and decent quads in this pose. Hadi, while not as wide in the arms, has more separation in the midsection and chest, rounder arms, and better quads. It comes down to a freak factor versus clean lines battle, where Nick is really freakishly huge, while Hadi has those lines plus great detail and mass. Personally, Hadi is the one who stands out to me, as nobody has those deep striations in the chest, detail in that midsection, or outer quad sweep. While Nick is big, freaky, and full, I don't like his midsection, and his quads are not the most proportional to his upper body. I'd have this one ending with a win for Hadi being in first, Nick in second, Samson in third, and Derek finishing this one off in fourth. Alright guys, that's it for this video. In summary, I had this one ending in a win for Hadi with 11 points, putting a considerable amount of distance between second place being Derek with 21 points. Samson and Nick tied with 24, with, in my opinion, Samson pulling ahead due to cleaner lines, similar mass, and a clear advantage in the midsection. As many have said, if Hadi had shown up to the 2023 Olympia looking like this, he would have easily won. He's nearly perfect, only needing a bit more condition in the lower body to be mind-blowing. Even here, Hadi stood out in almost every pose, effectively beating the others in conditioning, shape, and even size. It goes to show you that quality muscle and aesthetics are enough to beat more massive, yet less conditioned or less aesthetic guys, which should be the case in my opinion. That being said, Derek will most probably come back better than last year, which should make for a very competitive and interesting Olympia. Samson and Nick will probably be looking for redemption, considering the year they've had, and will hopefully be at their all-time best as well. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments what you thought. Remember, I am just a fan of bodybuilding, and this is all purely just my opinion, and with that all being said, I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.